he showed it to the studio, and they actually loved it. And so they wanted to put it at the top of this very, 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 very low budget indie films. But I still had to prove myself, essentially, like show that I had a place at the table. So I actually still had to audition for it. And I had to come to the realization that my brother-in-law, again, very honest guy, and the other producers as well, be like, we will let you do this, but you need to be open to the fact if somebody is better than you at this role, that it's better for your movie if they have it. And I was like, absolutely. So I had to kind of face that gauntlet myself.
There we go. How much drinking was involved in that gauntlet?
I think while I was waiting for the answer, a healthy amount.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass. Today I'm talking to Jim Mahoney, the writer and star of Gatlopp, which is coming to digital and on demand on June 16, 2022. We're going to talk to him right now, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. Also, a lot. Thank you.
Man, you look sick.
I am ready to get pumped. Let's do this. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Jim Mahoney, the writer and co-star of Gatlopp, which is coming to digital and on demand on June 16, 2022. It is a supernatural indie horror comedy that involves board games, craziness, and also deep, deep, dark secrets. It is very entertaining. It is very fun. I got so inspired. I dressed up as a scene in the movie, and I'm ready to get pumped with Jim. Let's go.
I can't. I feel underdressed for the occasion.
I mean, you look way better than me, so I should have coordinated with you though, and maybe next time we can play a horrible supernatural game, and it'll teleport you over here, and then we can do this together.
Perfect, done. I'm into it.
One can hope. So I think the best way to start, this interview specifically is with shots. So cheers. Let's get this game started. Excellent.
Right. Cheers. Here we go.
There we go.
Straight vodka at 10 a.m.
Same here. Woo, craziness. So you wrote this film. What horrible, crazy, drunken night inspired this movie? Because I imagine that was probably something like that. Or maybe you were just really bored, just trying to think of like, what can I do now that everyone's locked down?
I wrote that. I had this idea a long time ago. Like, I want to say it hit me from an event almost 10 years ago where I was, I've told a few people this story, but I was meeting a few friends to go out on the bars, right? Like a Friday night out. So I met three of the friends.
Friday night out, friends. I don't. What is that? That seems so long ago.
Pastime, right? It's like landlines. But they, we met up at a friend's place that lived near like the main street of Santa Monica, where there's a bunch of fun bars we could like pop around in. And so we met at his place first, and he said essentially like, "Do you guys? I have all these games. Do you guys want to play like a game first before we go out, like pre-game?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's just have a beer, play a game, and then move on." But this game we're having so much fun with it. We ended up staying in and playing until like 3 or 4 in the morning, to the point where my friend's wife was like, "You guys are supposed to leave. Like the whole point of this, you were going to meet here, and I was going to have the house to myself, and you guys haven't left." And I was having so much fun, and I got this strange idea about like, what if it's trick? What if essentially you play a game that like somebody found, and you start playing, it's fun, you're reconnecting, you're laughing, it's like as if it's old times again, like no time has passed, and then you realize that the game had tricked you, and now you can't leave, and now you have to follow the game's rules to get out, or this is your existence forever. And so that's sort of what inspired it. And I loved the original Jumanji. I mean, I do not try to hide the fact that this is as if Jumanji was a drinking game. So I love that kind of stakes too, like kids up against actual lions. I'm like, okay, what if it's a bunch of drunken idiots up against their own misgivings?
Although drunken idiots against lions would have been an interesting angle in this movie as well. Maybe that's for an extended cut. We'll see.
Yeah, that's for a bigger budget. That's for the sequel.
And I do love, two things. I love how your mind works, where you're like, I had this wonderful, great experience with my friends out drinking. Let's turn it sinister and make it evil. Like that. I love that was the inspiration. And then
I think we all do this though, right? Where it's like, this feels great. It's like, when will the meteor drop? Like, when is the shoe gonna fall? But I just took it to a weird, twisted state.
That's perfect. And I do also, I definitely got Jumanji from it. I think in my review, I was like, I think this feels very loosely inspired by Jumanji, and I love it. So that was definitely something that came through as well.
Awesome.
But the board game aspect is kind of the main crux of it, but this does get into some very personal, emotional realms as well. Was that drawn? This feels like it could have been a very personal journey, despite the kind of like ridiculous trappings around it. Was that drawn from like your own, I don't know, experiences or insecurities or things like that? Or was it just, you're a good writer, you imagine this world and you imagine things in this world that people could regret?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm a big fan of Stephen King's writing, and I feel like if you start, I read his book on writing, and then you read any of his earlier stories, and you realize a lot of his characters really are kind of, if he took like a flaw in himself and turned it to 11 a little bit, and like what would happen if this terrible part of myself went too far, and then what would that be? That's sort of the why we have like writing and stories. It's like the ability to take something that's something that is specific to you potentially, or someone that and then push it beyond reason, and then have real life consequences to it. So I think every character has an insecurity and a superpower or ability that was from myself or somebody very close to me, for sure. And I think that it helped me kind of, if I were to look at these like flaws in these characters, right? It's like, okay, like what is a relatable thing that I think I've dealt with that is universal? So for Paul, it's the idea that he's not responsible for his problems. That's somebody else's fault. He does everything right. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. That is a flaw I think I have, and I think many people have, where it's like, this isn't my fault. I am correct. But to basically, when your good friends who know you the most, were the most honest with you, were like, you made these decisions, so this is also on you. Or with Sam, somebody that is very much drowning sorrows in work and success and doing everything you can to avoid facing things that might scare you. With Troy, there's an element of just keeping on the appearances of success, even if they don't exist, and trying to hold on to a lifestyle that might not be welcome to you anymore. And then for Cliff, it is a matter of like just wanting the party to continue, just never wanting it to end, and avoiding any conflict of any kind, even if it means potentially hurting your friends. So each one of these are flaws that I have, and then I just turn them up. I feel like they're also hopefully relatable to where everybody has that within them or knows that person, I feel. So,
I mean, I can't relate to Paul. It's like, I never do anything wrong. If you ask my wife, I'm sure she'll say the same thing. It's always someone else's fault, right?
absolutely.
And I've only talked to you, I've only talked to you for like 5 minutes, but I can't imagine you have any flaws. So this is just really great imaginative writing you had.
Much appreciated.
Of course. So you wrote and starred in this movie. Was this always kind of the plan? Like, did you write this with the idea that you would, star in it, or was that just kind of like necessity because of how the filming happened? And you're like, I could take this on because I wrote all this, so I could take on Paul. Like, how did that work out?
The initial plan was it was a movie for me. I met with Alberto for lunch in like spring of 2017, and he was trying to get his directing career off the ground in features, and he was having a hard time. I was trying to get push acting further, and I was having a hard time. And so I proposed this idea. It's like, what if we make this ourselves? What if we make a movie that is contained in one space? I'll write it with the hopes of, maybe I push the envelope too far. We can bring it back, but we'll donate our time. We'll make it ourselves. And then I was fortunate enough to then my James Harris, who's admittedly my brother-in-law as well, but as a producer, he's like, I might have an opportunity with this movie. If you want, I could bring it into this company that's looking to make these low budget films. I can't guarantee anything, but I was like, well, it's better than paying for it ourselves. And then
for sure.
Yeah, because that would have been, man, we started that process and I was like, how is this ever going to happen? And then he showed it to the studio, and they actually loved it. And so they wanted to put it at the top of this very, 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 very low budget indie films. But I still had to prove myself, essentially, like show that I had a place at the table. So I actually still had to audition for it. And I had to come to the realization that my brother-in-law, again, very honest guy, and the other producers as well, be like, we will let you do this, but you need to be open to the fact if somebody is better than you at this role, that it's better for your movie if they have it. And I was like, absolutely. So I had to kind of face that gauntlet myself.
There we go. How much drinking was involved in that gauntlet?
I think while I was waiting for the answer, a healthy amount. But yeah. I was lucky, and I was fortunate enough to where they believed in me to then help carry this movie. But ultimately, with the help of with Emmy, who is just a genius, Sarunas, John, these guys are amazing, and without them, it would have never worked. It would have never been the movie that it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I loved your character. I loved how you like portrayed him, and some of just the little like unspoken things that happened, like when they mentioned a certain ordeal that you went through and your character just like went blank. I loved that. I loved every time that happened. But then I loved the camaraderie. Yeah, the whole cast seemed to really get along well. It seemed like you had been old friends. And I assume that was just because they're all great actors and they're great people. But did you do anything before to like get in that spirit? Did you have a drinking game? Did you have like a game night, or was it just like, hey, we have no time, let's go, we're all friends, move it?
I mean, we would have loved to. I mean, the initial plan, and Alberto and I talked about this, is like, when we actually get this thing cast, we should have a night where we play a game, and we like get, if they feel down to it, get drunk or not, just like play the game before we actually play a game before we actually shoot this movie, to hopefully inspire that kind of camaraderie. But we shot this in like the heart of 2020. So we shot this in the fall of 2020, when it was things were opening up a little bit, but it was still pretty scary. We actually had a COVID scare on our second day.
Wow.
So there was no meeting. I mean, casting, wardrobe, everything was done remotely. I mean, I remember wardrobe was actually dropped. The wardrobe fitting, a woman with just in like a hazmat suit drops like several bags off at my apartment, and then like took off. And then I, with my computer propped on my dresser in my studio apartment, I was like trying on clothes for the director. So it was all remote until the day, and we tested, frequently. But ultimately, it just was conversations with these actors, and like very much seeing that we had the same sentiment, the same kind of like shared. We quickly had a repartee, each like individually. And then when we all got together, it sort of all gelled. And then we were like locked in a room for the most part for almost 3 weeks. 2 weeks of it entirely was in one house. So we were in one room together. It was just the main actors, while they were setting up scenes in the other spaces. But we were in this one like bedroom together for 2 weeks. And it was like camp a little bit. And luckily we got 3 not only very talented, very smart actors, but also great people. And we shared a lot in common, and it was great. The conversations, the connection seemed very real, very fast. And yeah, I mean, even watching the dailies, I was like, wow, I would believe that we were friends from years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a group of people I would like to be locked up with. I would love to volunteer for the next movie. I will happily go to camp with you all. You all seem like great people, and I could be the 5th, I don't know, the X Factor. We'll go.
Great.
Perfect.
You can be the aerobics instructor.
Yeah, I would love that. You can also, you probably could prosthetically cut off my limb or something. You could use me for the good of the movie. We'll do that.
Great.
And so Gatlopp, I guess, is Swedish for gauntlet. How did you find that? Were you just Googling, or was this like based on a drinking game you played earlier? Is there a drinking game called Gatlopp?
No, I mean, it was, again, I was trying to think of like the overall inspiration for this game. It was clearly Jumanji, was an inspiration for it, but it was from playing a game initially, this weird game called Quelf, which was this hilarious like party game, but also like Cranium and Catchphrase and a bunch of these like party games for the most part. But I wanted to have a weird name for this game that sort of didn't have anywhere, didn't come from anywhere. It didn't seem familiar, but seemed catchy-ish. I also wanted it to have some connection, and I kept thinking about running the gauntlet. This felt like a gauntlet, right? This is what these guys have to run the gauntlet to get to the other side. And so there were a bunch of movies named that. It also seemed too in the nose. So I started looking up different ways to say gauntlet and found Gatlopp. And I was like, Sweden has so many wonderful, weird wars. And it feels like this could potentially have been like, what if it was something that started there and then it moved its way to America? Like there could be this weird story behind it. But I also loved the idea of it being a mystery. Like we don't know where the game came from. We don't know why, but there's these strange connections. And initially the game was named, and the script was named, the game is named Gatlopp, a drinking game for friends. And that was initially the script as well. And then hopefully the movie, but then it became Gatlopp, hell of a game. But it was, I feel like I'm rambling a bunch, but I feel like also the idea was that the game has a weird enough frame where it's like, the fuck is that? Like, what is
exactly?
What is that? And so I hope it hits all those points. A, it's Gauntlet. B, it's Swedish, which is again weird lore, weird history, but also kind of like piques your interest. Like I don't understand what this is, and I want to know more about it.
For sure.
So that was the messy answer to your question of where the name came from.
That's a perfect answer. And another question is your favorite movie actually Apocalyptica? And if not, let's go. Or Apocalypto, and if not, let's go. Describe your movie.
My favorite movie of all time?
Mm-hmm.
It changes with the day. I think that, by the way, I think that my favorite movie of all time might be Shawshank Redemption.
That's a good
I think
one.
that might be a perfect movie, but also I really love Seven, like a lot. But I grew up with strange movies. Just recently, I was talking to my girlfriend about some movies like Death Becomes Her.
Mm-hmm.
Love stuff like that, this sort of genre blending. But I think really the movie that I started me loving movies was the Tim Burton Batman, the 1989 movie.
That's a great one. Although Shawshank Redemption would be easy to describe without talking. You just got to go like this and, probably spray some water on you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the movie is out on June 16th, 2022, digitally and on demand. People can check it out. You are out promoting this film. It is a fantastic film. I loved it. You said you wanted to use this to jumpstart your acting career, or at least springboard your acting career. Are there any other projects on the line that people can look for after they see this movie?
So I actually wrote another movie and directed it last year. It'll be coming out this winter. So it's a movie called Bar Fight about a couple that has an amicable breakup. Everything's fine. They split things evenly, but then they can't decide who gets to keep their favorite local bar. So then over one night, they have basically it's similar to Gatlopp, and then there's a competition between the two of them to get who gets to stay, who gets to keep the bar. And it's with Melissa Fumero, Rachel Bloom, Luca Jones, and Julian Gant. And it's a lot of fun. And then that's in the pipeline. Then I have a bunch of animated projects with my writing partner that I wrote Klaus with. So hopefully you guys will be seeing those in the next. That'll take a while because that's animation, but yeah.
Well, perfect. I can't wait to see those, but everyone should make sure to check out Gatlopp. It comes to digital on demand on June 16, 2022. It is a very funny movie that also has a lot of heart and a lot of craziness. And this is Jim Mahoney, the writer and star of that film. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take it easy.
That was Jim Mahoney, the writer and star of Gatlopp, which is coming to digital on demand on June 16, 2022. It's an indie supernatural horror comedy that involves board games, tons of ridiculousness, and deep, dark secrets. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And please check out my other content for Gatlopp specifically. I have a review up here, and I also have an interview with the director, Alberto Belli, up on this site as well.